Look, um, similar to early games in the season where you're playing a lesser opponent, but even more so, you got to take what you see from the spring game with a grain of salt. Um, there definitely, some of the highlights, the good plays. There's definitely some things you can look at. But okay, I see why that player might be able to pop in season, right? You can see athleticism. If it's a long run, you're like, okay, that kid Blake Corum. If we didn't know who Blake Corum was, and we saw him in the spring game, you're like, oh wow, this kid has some wiggle, right? Um, so there are definitely some things that you can pull from the spring game. But it was interesting to see certain guys, especially like early enrollee freshman play uh, that could potentially step in and make an impact later in the season, very similar um, to how my apologies, his name escapes me. The receiver, what is his name? Oh, there it is, Andrew Anthony. But he stepped up at Michigan State. As these kids are young and they start to get more into the playbook and get more repetitions in practice, guys go down. And then eventually they had to make plays for the team. Like seeing a kid like a Marion Walker, who's a true freshman, he made a play earlier in the game. You just never know, right? Well, our receiver room is pretty stacked, but guys get hurt all the time. He may need to step up. That was good to see. It was good to see the tight end, another early enrollee, Loveland, who's probably the third stringer behind both Eric All and Shoemaker. He had like a trick play that Sharon Moore called that he was able to it was easily executed, made the play, and but those things are good to see from your young guys, right? um but one of the biggest questions I have about this offense is that we know they're going to score points. They have weapons everywhere, right? We know that Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are going to be probably the best tandem running back committee in the Big Ten. I'll argue definitely top five in the country. I think they're that electric together. Um, but one of the things that I think really complemented their running game last year was the Thunder and Lightning tandem of Corum and Haskins. And now that Hassan Haskins has graduated, who's going to fill the Thunder part, right? We know Blake Corum is still going to be explosive, but he's not he's not the guy you give the ball to third and one, third and two when you need short yardage. That's not really his forte. That's not his strength, right? Same thing with Dalvin Edwards. I think Dalvin Edwards is the ultimate Swiss Army knife player. You can line him up on the outside. I think he's just as good as a receiver as he is a running back, right? So I don't really count him. I feel like if I put him in that position, that's limiting what he can do, right? He could be lined up anywhere. Heck, I say he's actually better in short yardage, lining him on the outside because you just never know what he could be used with. He can be brought on reverse. He can get the ball off a bubble screen. I think he's way more dangerous actually being on the outside as opposed to the backfield in short yardage. But one kid that did stick out to me that I think that can take that role is Dunlap. He's about 220, compact running back. He kind of reminds me of Hassan Haskins, but a few inches shorter, but compact type of kid that you can get the ball to in short yardage. And I think that it's important for us to find a kid that can fill that short yardage role, especially with the way that Harbaugh and Sherrod Moore are probably going to run the offense, which is ball control, being smart, and establishing dominance on the line of scrimmage. So that was some of the things that stuck out to me. And on the other side, defensively, is that we know as of now we don't have any game breakers on defense, like a Daxon Hill or like a an Aiden Hutchinson, right? As of now, we don't know. We know Mike Morris is a good player, but we don't believe he's a game breaker type player, right? So, and that's okay. You can still be an effective defense and still win ball games, right? We know we're not going to shut out people in today's college football, not the good teams, right? But what this team can do is, I think, if they can find a way to force turnovers. Case in point, it actually got reversed because they said a running back, the running back's knee was down. but it was the goal line play, I think, in the second quarter where um, the defense they almost forced a fumble. Cornelius Johnson actually picked the ball up and scored, but the running back was trying to extend the ball for a few extra yardage. It came through, knocked the ball out. Right, that's headset football. That's your back is against the wall. You haven't been able to stop the offense, but you find a way to generate a turnover. Right, that can help with not being a great defense if you're able to generate turnovers, and most importantly, being sound in tackling. Because if you're not going to get a ton of plays in the backfield, at least limit chunk plays. And the best way you can do that is by being sound and fundamental with your tackling, making sure guys aren't able to take a 5 yard catch and take it and make it a 15 or 20 yard catch, right? So those are things that I'm curious if this team can really zone in and focus on doing that because I don't have high expectations for the defense, but I do believe they can be solid.